Hey everyone, this is Melody again from www.melodies-makings.com. Today we are talking about how to knit in the round on double pointed needles. We have already done a how to cast onto double pointed needles and a how to join in the round using double pointed needles. So our next step in this series is learning how to actually knit with double pointed needles. So you're going to go ahead and grab your yarn tail and essentially just start knitting. You're using one of your extra needles. So like I said, the packages come in either 5 or 4. Today we're just using 4, so you can consider that 5th needle just an extra in case you lose one. And we take our last needle and we go ahead and use it as if we were knitting on straight needles as our right hand needle. And we go ahead and knit into our left hand needle. And we basically just ignore the other 2 needles. You want to make sure that your stitches are in the middle of those needles so that they won't fall off while you're messing with the 3rd needle. But otherwise, we just really kind of ignore them. So essentially you are replacing all of the stitches on one needle with stitches onto your empty needle. So you can see this needle is now my empty needle and all of those stitches are now on this needle. It's a really neat concept. So then you have to find where you would be knitting next in your piece. So you can see my circle goes this way. So that means I need to push those stitches to this end of this needle and start knitting them with my empty needle. Once again, I'm just replacing the 5 stitches that are on this needle right here, with 5 more stitches that are going to go onto this needle. And this is the exact same for whether you're knitting, whether you're purling. You do it just as if you were on straight needles. You just have the extra needles. It can seem really, really intimidating, but it shouldn't. It's more just difficult because you're getting used to the feel of having so many needles, and the casting on and things like that can be a little tricky as well. But if you just dive right in and kind of just start it, you'll find that it's not quite as intimidating as you thought it was. So now you readjust and see, okay, I've got that one done. Where does my piece go? It keeps going this way. I've already knit these ones, and now I need to knit these ones. Now also, when you're knitting in the round, you need to consider having a stitch marker. A stitch marker is, it can be like a small ring of plastic. I like to use just a slip knot of a different color of yarn. That way I don't have to pay for a stitch marker, which I will inevitably lose because I can't keep track of anything with a 2-year-old in my house. So I just make a stitch marker by making a slip knot in another piece of yarn and I stick it on. With double pointed needles, it isn't quite as important because you can always find your end. You know you're working with 3 needles, so you can pretty much always find the end that you're working on by using the end of your yarn tail to find it. But if you're working on another type of method, or if you're working on a really big project where you're pushing stitches around from one needle to the other, then you'll definitely want to have a stitch marker on there. So that is how you knit with double pointed needles. Things to consider when knitting with double pointed needles are you never want to decrease across 2 needles. So say I need to do a knit 2 together with this stitch and this stitch, then I would just go ahead and move this stitch over to this needle and knit them together there. There's no need to try to be grabbing one off of here and one off of here and knitting them together. It's just going to be frustrating and it's not going to end up looking good. Same with purl 2 togethers, just never decrease across 2 needles. It is okay to take some needles off of one, or to take some stitches off of one needle and move them to another needle. As long as you keep one stitch on each needle at every time, you're not going to have any problem moving them around. So do what's most comfortable for you, and don't be afraid to play with it. I think that is pretty much all you need to know, and if I remember anything after, it will be in the text of this blog post. So you can find my blog at www.melodies-makings.com, along with everything else you need to know about learning how to knit. I will be back soon with a knitting in the magic loop method, which uses a circular needle, or a cable needle. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.